As soon as I turned 13 years old, my parents' first action was to get me a job. I was intentionally quite happy to get a job. I was planning on saving money to get a Sega Dreamcast. I know the Sega Dreamcasts are pretty old now, but I'm more of a retro gamer, to be honest with ya. My happiness of getting a job quickly turned into dread and anger when I discovered that my parents had landed me a job at a corner shop. Now, I wouldn't have been so bad if it weren't the fact that the shop was ran by a horrid man known as Mr. Trumps. Mr. Turnips, as I said before, was a horrid man who hoarded newspapers and Mars bars. Even though I was as big as a set, Mr. Turnips treated me like some scum and often forgot to pay me. This led me into trying to start stealing Mars bars from him when he wasn't looking. I hated working for Turnips, and he hated me just the same. He was unaware that I was stealing from him, and he believed that his Mars bars supply was being stolen by rival corner stores. Mr. Turnips and I had butted heads constantly over everything under the sun. I detested on how he ran the store and how he acted nice and friendly with me whenever my parents were around. But as soon as we were left when we went back to being annoying of a son of a gun, Mr. Turnips was also corrupted as he was getting protected by Kenny Petrovic. Now, this is actually one of the powerful Russian gangsters in the city. Petrovic protects the corner shop with his iron fists. Mr. Turnips returns the favor by providing kickbacks to Petrovic and his crew. I was somewhat lucky to get a job working for Mr. Turnips when he was incredibly distrustful of new faces. Ever since his wife Martha ran off with the scuba instructor, Mr. Turnips became a hard man to be around, He often accused me of working for a spy at a rival corner shop, even though there was no evidence of me to back up this regardless. Mr. Turnips and I always felt that we should keep a close eye on me. I found just to be incredibly insulting, and asked for my parents' assistance in that matter. My parents, however, believed Mr. Turnips to be a great man, and this was the methods that were really inspiring. They actually told Mr. Turnips to keep an eye on me as they didn't want to trust me. However, they were quite quaint. Anyways, Mr. Turnips used me as a door-to-door salesman of slots, and I would go to people's houses and offer them some of Mr. Turnip's merchandise. Now, because I live in a very rough area, I am often robbed for a semi-regular basis, but now that's not really my fault. Mr. Turnips believes that I got robbed on purpose just to mess with him. I wanted to get some sweet revenge, so I started throwing some pretty harmless pranks on Mr. Turnips, such as spiking his cup of tea with whiskey. This caused Turnips to start dancing on the roof until 4 o'clock in the morning, whistling to the Queen. I have been always nicking Mars bars from him on a far regular basis, as I had to make sure to steal at least 2 every day. This was until I was eventually caught by Mr. Turnips, and he gave me a lesson that I shall never forget the rest of my life. After I was caught stealing Mars bars, I was brought to the back room by Turnips where there was a small, dirty, and smelly DVD player sitting on top of the table of every corner of the room. I asked, "What's going on here, boss?" "I got a little present for you, my boy," Mr. Turnips said as he pointed at the DVD player. "This DVD player contains everything which will set you on the right path." Mr. Turnips began to explain that there was a DVD inside the DVD player, which contained a never-before-seen episode of The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. The episode had been created by Turnip's close friend, Prime Minister Rabe Mannels. Rabe also, of course, actually worked for Turnips when he was a small child, giving him the land of Wales. Now, I was really excited to see the very least, as I had not seen the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh in almost 10 years. The show is about Winnie the Pooh and his friends go on some crazy adventures while Christopher Robin's at school. The show aired on Playhouse Disney until the network decided to replace it with My Friends Tigger and Pooh. The less said that the show was even better. Of course, I was curious as to what this never-before-seen episode was going to be like. Although I must admit, I was pretty confused as to why Prime Minister would actually make an episode of the Winnie the Pooh, but at the end, I decided not to dwell on it. Mr. Turnips then headed to the area of the store where he continued to serve people while I watched the DVD. The DVD started with a brief commercial which had Bob the Tomato asking Larry the Cucumber an incredibly hard question. I can't really remember what it meant to be, well, if honest with ya. Something to do with the solar energy or something. "No, Bob, I cannot say that I am. I'm sorry, Bob," Larry proclaimed as he began floating out towards the sky. Bob looked up at Larry in an incredibly shocked face before he was melting onto the floor. With that said, the episode started off with the theme song. It just wasn't right. For starters, Pooh's nose was green instead of black, which made me vomit all over the floor. The person singing the lyrics kept stuttering and even began to be asking for help while singing the lyrics. It's time to get up. It's gotta see a friend. How does this go again? The singer sang. It was so bloody annoying. Also, during the part where Pooh was shown again with made me vomit all over the place, when Pooh was not shoving honey into Eeyore's mouth, Eeyore responded by beating the snout out of Pooh. And with that, the episode then cuts to show Tigger, who had no stripes. And of course, it was just running like the cameraman, before coming back with the episode title and the episode on screen. The episode title, the name was Rabbit's Phobia, and it just started with Rabbit doing some gardening like he always does before Tigger begins jumping towards him. Tigger ended up jumping on the entire field nearby, destroying all of Rabbit's crops in the process. "Oh, Tigger, look what you've done!" Rabbit cried in despair as Tigger responded with, "Oh, sorry, Rabbit, I'm off to Hushabye Mountain." And with that, Tigger continued to jump down all the way down the road towards Roo-Roo's house. Rabbit went back to picking up some of the crop, which of course Tigger hadn't destroyed. "I don't understand why that damn Tigger can't just leave me alone," Rabbit cried as he placed the crops inside of a wooden basket. The screen then transitions to Rabbit sitting in his living room with a cup of tea, when suddenly a knock occurred on the door. When Rabbit got up to see who it was, he opened the door to reveal none other than Winnie the Pooh himself. "What are you doing here, Pooh?" Rabbit asked in a gruff voice as Pooh responded with, "I was wondering if you had some honey to spare, friend Rabbit." Rabbit then sighed before saying, "Come on with me, Pooh." Of course, Rabbit made his way into the kitchen with Pooh following behind him. Rabbit removed a large pot of honey from the top of the cabinet and then handed it to Pooh. "How much do you want, Pooh?" Rabbit asked. "Well, I was hoping to have the entire thing, Rabbit," Pooh said sheepishly as Rabbit responded with, "Oh, well, Rabbit was then cut off as Pooh began dancing like a madman before chasing Sin and making his leave. Rabbit then was shown pacing around the living room. He was well annoyed. "It's not fair," Rabbit complained before continuing with, "Why must my sweet honey always be stolen from me?" The screen then proceeded to show a serious montage, which of course shows Pooh stealing honey from Rabbit. The montage also shows several clips of Tigger destroying Rabbit's beautiful garden. "I've got to do something," Rabbit cried as he flopped down on his rocking chair. 2 seconds later, Rabbit shot up like a brick and exclaimed, "I have an idea." The following day, Tigger was shown bouncing as normal until he reached Rabbit's garden. "Hey, Rabbit, old boy, I just wanted to say, oh, sugar, honey, iced tea," Tigger then cried as he fainted into a cold, hard ground. "What's the matter, Tigger?" Pooh appeared on the screen. He then looked up to see that the cause for Tigger's fainting. He wouldn't believe what he saw. Rabbit had built a horrifying scarecrow to scare those who dare trespass on his land. The scarecrow would have not been real. It just looked evil and was a painting sinister. Now at first, Pooh didn't seem to be that scared of the scarecrow and decided to ignore it. Then he headed over to Rabbit's house and knocked on the front door, whistling as he did so. "Rabbit, would you happen to make sure to have any honey for a friend in need, would you?" Pooh asked. In response, Pooh continued knocking on the door and eventually came to the conclusion that Rabbit wasn't home. He then turned to leave, only to see that the scarecrow was now standing right in front of him. "All very clever, Tigger." Pooh laughed as he opened up the scarecrow's chest to only reveal that there was no one inside. Pooh looked completely terrified as the scarecrow gestured his head to lean towards behind the field behind Pooh. Pooh then turned around and saw the army of scarecrows march on the hill. They were coming in at him to get him. Of course, Pooh didn't have time to react more than a few seconds. He was consumed by the army of scarecrows. "Help me, Rabbit! Help me!" Pooh cried as the scarecrows carried him off into the deepest, darkest part of the 100-acre woods. When the screen then cuts to show Pooh arriving at a small, dark, damp cave located at the very end of the 100-acre woods, Pooh was then forced to enter the cave, and then he was thrown inside a small, rusty, pretty darn smelly cage. One of the scarecrows walked over to the corner of the cave and lit a small light switch, and at least Pooh could see what was going on. He looked around the cave to see that Tigger has also been kidnapped. "What's going on, Tigger?" Pooh asked as Tigger responded with, "He's Rabbit, Pooh, old boy. He's gone bananas!" Pooh then tried his best to break through the cage as a loud clap noise could be heard from the other side of the cave. That was when a mysterious person behind the kidnapping made themselves unknown. it was as expected, the kidnapper was none other than Rabbit himself. Rabbit was wearing a dark red dressing gown, and his fur looked messy, and he was standing next to two scarecrows. "So, Pooh, tell me, how did you like my friends?" Rabbit asked as he made his way towards Pooh's cage. "Rabbit, why are you doing this?" Pooh asked before continuing with, "What are those things?" "These are the scarecrow's things, Pooh. They are my friends," Rabbit explained as he began to tell Pooh and Tigger his story. You see, Rabbit had started to begin to live in a constant fear, as Pooh and Tigger always annoyed him on a daily basis. First, Tigger would destroy Rabbit's garden, and then Pooh would come knocking on the door for some honey. Pooh's consistent demands, which combined with Tigger's constant destruction, had driven Rabbit up the wall. He had developed something of a phobia of the two. Rabbit was also convinced that Pooh was starting to steal his honey with him for a supply of honey that kept going down by the day. Pooh then tried his best to explain his innocence, but Rabbit was having none of it. Rabbit then went on to explain that the scarecrows were old friends of his, and they all gone to Oxford University very together many moons ago, even longer now than it seems. So sad. Rabbit then proceeded to explain that he had hired scarecrows to capture Pooh and Tigger of him so he could finally teach them a lesson for taking what isn't theirs. "Oh, but Pooh, I didn't..." Pooh was cut off as Rabbit said, "Shut up, my friends, and I are going to teach you a lesson now," Rabbit said, and as he knocked down one at the floor, that Tigger who had managed to escape from the cage using a paperclip. "Come on, Pooh boy, we got to get out of here," Tigger cried at the top of his lungs as he and Pooh began running out of the cage. "After them!" Rabbit yells as the scarecrows began chasing behind them. Pooh and Tigger eventually reached Piglet's house and saw that Piglet was busy playing Resident Evil 5 with Eeyore and Owl. "What's going on here?" Owl asked as Tigger responded with, "No time to explain, we got..." The door towards the house suddenly burst open as Rabbit's scarecrows made their way inside. "What on earth are those things?" Piglet said at the very top of his lungs. "Oh, dear!" "No time to explain, Piglet. We got to get Christopher Robin," Pooh exclaimed as he picked up Piglet in his arms. The group then made their way for the back door and then proceeded to run down to the nearby field while being chased away down by Rabbit and his scarecrow minions. While running, the group ended up running through a smelly farm which was ran by Amos Slade. "You darn animals!" Slade yelled as he began shooting at the group with his shotgun. "You come back here! I'll send my dogs after you!" Amos barked as he was pushed down the ground by Rabbit and his scarecrows. The group eventually reached a small clearing which was only 5 minutes away from Christopher Robin's place. The group hid themselves behind a bush where they bumped into Gopher. "What's going on here, Sonny?" Rabbit asked as he was busy going to have his lunch with consists of veggie round tables. "I didn't even know what was coming to be honest with ya." Gopher then proceeded to look above the bushes. He couldn't believe what he saw. Rabbit's scarecrow minions were making their way towards the hill at the alarming rate. "What are we gonna do?" Owl asked while Pooh and Tigger tried their best to calm Piglet down. "There's only one thing we can do, Owl," Gopher said, which of course Piglet asked, "What's that, Gopher?" "We got to fight fire with fire," Gopher proclaimed as he pulled out a large briefcase. He reached inside the briefcase and pulled out a large machine gun. Gopher and the gang made their way towards the scarecrows and placed the machine guns stationary on the ground. "Smile, you son of a guns," Gopher proclaimed as he began firing at the machine gun at the scarecrows. It was beautiful. The scarecrows getting killed one by one. Gopher was continuing to fire the machine gun like a madman. Owl, meanwhile, helped Gopher out by reloading the machine gun, more and more bullets. Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, and Eeyore, meanwhile, just provided assistance to the pair by using slingshots and rocks in order to keep the repel of the Rabbit's troops. Pooh had began pouring out boiling hot honey onto the scarecrows, which helped weaken their force's ability. After what seemed to be like hours, all of Rabbit's scarecrows and minions were no more. "We did it! We did it!" Gopher proclaimed happily until he was shot and killed by Rabbit, who finally made his presence known as a battlefield. He was accompanied by a larger gang of scarecrows. "This thing ends, Pooh," Rabbit proclaimed evilly as Pooh responded with, "Not today." Pooh and the gang ran towards the large oak tree they could find, and then they proceeded to climb at the very top from there. The group then continued their assault on Rabbit and reinforcements. At one point, Pooh made his way over down to the tree and reached to the machine gun with his friend, providing cover for him. Pooh then reached into the machine gun and began firing once again, and managed to successfully kill all of Rabbit's reinforcements. But before Pooh could celebrate, he was knocked down to the ground by Rabbit. Pooh and Rabbit began to have an epic fight, with the others cheering on for Pooh in the background. Eventually, Rabbit was able to knock Pooh onto the ground, and Pooh tried his best to get up, but he just couldn't. Rabbit then laughed evilly, and before he might hail, lifting his mighty paw left in the air. "Say goodnight, Pooh Bear," Rabbit proclaimed to, but the impact never came. Instead of a loud gunshot echoed through the air. Pooh opened his eyes to see that Rabbit had been shot in the chest, none other than Christopher Robin, who was accompanied by Amos Slade. "Lucky shot," Rabbit said, before collapsing to the ground dead. The group made their way up to the tree and hugged Christopher Robin in the massive group hug. They proceeded to make their way over to Christopher Robin's house to have some honey and cider. At Christopher Robin's house, Slade revealed that he was actually Christopher Robin's father, and he also apologized for his violent outburst, and calmed down that the reason why he had been is because his wheat bix is yet. You are all not not you who haven't had your wee bits. Get the hint? Christopher Robin then proceeded to throw a toast at the 100-acre woods. And from now on, no more lives will be lost in the 100-acre woods, Christopher Robin proclaimed as the entire table cheered in demonstration. And with that, the DVD player then shut itself off, and it probably just needed recharging. Of course, I made my way to the back room in order to ask Mr. Turnips about the episode. I have some weird feelings regarding the episode I just witnessed. Well, on one hand, I found it really weird and far too dark for a Winnie the Pooh episode. Yet on the other hand, I thought it was pretty freaking awesome to see Pooh and the gang using machine guns and stuff. I had no idea that Rabbit was so crazy. How could I have been so blind after all these years? Perhaps society is to blame. Whatever the case may be, I made my way up to my desk to find that Mr. Terms wasn't there. Maybe he's outside chatting with his crush, Lady Bitsby. Lady Bitsby be at the object of Turnip's affections. She is incredibly a rich millionaire, which of course currently in a relationship with Wallace and Cheese and the cracker addict himself. Unbeknownst to Lady Bitsby, Wallace has conspired to kill her in order to claim her sweet insurance money. Yeah, Wallace is a sick piece of crap, but bet you didn't know what you did ya? Well, you know do, haha. Of course, sorry for the massive tangents. Anyways, I went up to the front door and opened it and saw a rather terrifying sight. Out on the streets was a creepy figure. It could have not been real. It looked like some sort of unholy demon had its claws that were out sharp enough to cut through the flesh like a knife through the butter. I probably could have ignored it, but it was, of course, until the creature actually started speaking in a dark, raspy voice that said to be echoed throughout the entire store. "Return the DVD," the ghost creature said to me, which I asked, "What?" "Return the DVD, or suffer my curse," the creature explained. I ran back in the store and I headed inside the back room. The DVD player was gone. There was still a sign of Mr. Turnip's either. What the heck was I going to do? I made my way outside to check if the ghostly appearance was still out there. Sure enough, I said, straight Paul with that DVD you want, well, it's kinda sort of gone, I said as the creature said in a cold, raspy voice. "Then suffer my curse." And after that, the creature disappeared into the shadows of the night. I was completely terrified, but I decided to just thought it was a glitch. I headed home only to find out my parents weren't home. They had left me a note saying that they both had to work late and couldn't be home until the following morning. I was rather tired anyway, so I decided to head to bed. I got into my pajamas and turned off all the lights before climbing into bed. That's when I felt something at the bottom of my bed. It felt like a huge lump kind of a pillow. That's when I noticed something else. My bed sheets were soaking wet. My pajamas were also soaking. At the moment of terror, I pulled back to my sheets to realize that the decapitated head of Mr. Turnips had been placed under my every free center of my bed. I screamed at the top of my lungs, and I screamed and screamed and screamed some more. I got out of bed and huddled over to a corner. The lights in the room began to flick on and off. The wind outside began to grow louder and louder, and my hands were also beginning to turn purple and swollen. Large blisters began appearing on my feet as I heard my bedroom door creak open. "Then suffer my curse," the loud voice said. The creature would come for me, and it had killed Mr. Turnips, and now it was going to kill me too. I'm not really sure what to do now. All I could really say is pray for the sound of the creature's voice as it gets closer and closer. Oh my goodness. Oh, Matthew Bumford. The story was really silly, but funny at the same time. Okay. And then my little pretties was Rabbit's Phobia. I guess I could call it the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Lost Episode Creepypasta, written by Matthew Bumford. Matthew Bumford, I have to say, I want to thank you so much for writing this story for me. This story was absolutely amazing. Well, boy. Now, I have not seen The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh in years. Like, I have not seen that show in years. Like, I remember as a kid, I used to watch the show so many times. I remember this was actually one of the best shows. I think it came out in the 90s. Let me actually look up it right now. I think it did come out in the 90s. Wow. Oh, yeah, it came out in the 80s. Well, the show ran from 1988 to 1991. So I guess you could say I grew up with this as a kid. This show was absolutely amazing. I could definitely say this show was actually really funny. I remember I used to watch this constantly as a young kid. I used to watch this like a lot as a kid. This was actually one of my favorite shows growing up as a young child. I remember seeing this show many times as a kid. I remember it used to be on Playhouse Disney at one point until, well, I guess until, my friends Tigger and Pooh came around, and of course they canceled it or something, which kind of made me feel sad because I actually remembered I loved this movie. I loved this show as a kid, and I remember I used to grow up with this show for a long time, and of course I remember watching this so many times as a kid. I'm sure most of us who were born in the 90s and even grew up with this might have grew up with this, watching this on TV, which I remember I have. I remember this show, and it's really cute. I found it to be cute, but also some episodes were funny, others were crazy, some were a little weird, but other than that, this show was actually really awesome. And if you guys are wondering who my favorite character is, my favorite character in this is Tigger. If you guys are wondering, Tigger is my favorite in this series. Just thought I would, kind of point out, some stuff. But okay, back with the story. I obviously found this story to be rather awesome and really well made. Now, I was waiting for Matthew Bumford to do another Winnie the Pooh story like this, and this story was absolutely amazing. Now, I could definitely say that the grammar of this story was absolutely amazing. The storyline was awesome. The sentence structuring worked out nice, and I do appreciate the concept being really amazing. Now, I have not seen this show in a long time, so I'm going to have to rewatch it maybe this week. Well, I guess I could watch it today while I'm eating, so I can watch it because it brings me back childhood memories. Alright, if you guys remember this show, I want you to comment on this video and let me know if you remembered seeing this, because I'm sure most of us have remembered seeing this as a kid. But with that being said, I obviously love this episode. Absolutely amazing, Matthew Bumford. You did amazing with this story. And that is a very good positive that I'm going to say, is that the story itself was absolutely amazing. Oh, and I forgot to tell you right here, is that, what was I going to say? The grammar was really good. If I didn't hear that, I do apologize. But the story itself was absolutely amazing and really well done, too. That is definitely something I'm definitely going to say right now. But this story was actually really amazing. And I do have to say, there is definitely lots of time and effort into the story. I can definitely say it right now. I really enjoyed this. Now, is there any negatives I have to say? No. I don't have anything to say about this. This story was absolutely amazing. In many ways I could count, this one was just awesome. Alright. I guess I kind of, went, I kind of explained farther enough about this story, but I'm going to be honest, the story was actually really amazing, and there was definitely lots of time and effort into it, so I have to say, Matthew Bumford, you did an awesome job with the story, and I really hope you make I just really hope you make another episode. Like, I really hope you make another, well, I just hope you make another, I hope you make another Winnie the Pooh Lost Episode Pasta. Because I really would like to see more of them. Because they bring me back so many memories as a kid. And I'm sure most of us have seen this show as a kid as well. Anyways, with that being said, there's nothing negative I could say about it. There's no negatives at all, obviously. But like I'm going to say right now, and like I always continue to say, this is simply my own personal opinion. And if you disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be at 10 out of 10. Just amazing, really awesome. The grammar was good, the sentence structure worked out well, the storyline was amazing, paragraph structuring was good as always, the story was funny as well, and there was definitely lots of time and effort into it. So this is on Go Shia Wiki for any of you guys who want to check it out. Feel free to check it out if you guys want to. I'm sure Matthew Bumford would appreciate you guys taking a look at it if you guys want to read it. Now, anyways, what did you all think about this creepypasta, or funny pasta in this case? You all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this episode a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Also, don't forget to ring the notification bell so you guys won't miss an upload. And as always, I hope you please roll the outro because I'm out of here. And I will be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.